I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to Highlights Eurosport.
Who's going to break Hastings' world title?
These two go.
He's going to do it. His first victory.
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.
Ever start in Academy, overcoming Super Venturi's Scott Flack and Valet eSports' Daniel Miganov to lead the championship in what was a dramatic start to FSR's new hybrid era. My name is Edward Hunter, and alongside me in the commentary box is Nathan Richards. So, Nathan, thank you for joining me. As we resume the battle for the Academy Championship at Circuit de Catalunya, what are the key characteristics of this track that are going to challenge not just the drivers, but the cars and tyres as well?
Well, with this track, I think a lot of it is based on the tyre management. It's very, very high on the tyre wear around here. We've seen in real life, along with some other eSports championships, you can, if you push too hard on those first opening laps, your tyres will absolutely die. So you've got to learn how to manage the tyres well, especially in the end of that middle sector. That's where you can, especially coming out of turn 10, that's where the tyres can really die because they're on the limit. Coming out of turn 10 itself, you can really lose the rear easily, as we saw many times in real life. Turn 3 as well, that's a bit of a tricky place because it's based a lot on bravery, and you've got to take the inch perfect line. If you go offline by a little bit, you can lose up to a tenth or two at a time, which in a grid like this you can't be losing that much time. But yeah, I think without the chicane as well, it'll be quite interesting. Many drivers probably haven't raced at without the chicane, so obviously coming out of that final corner, you could get a bit of a better chance for an overtake if you take the right line.
Yeah, and somewhat unusually, Nathan, we're doing Academy and Pro a couple of weeks after the World Championship race, so we already sort of have the baseline of the full distance, what can happen with Jene Simincic, of course, memorably triumphing on the alternate strategy. And it's interesting you mentioned turn 3 because Peter Brulliak, right at the end of the race, completely destroyed his tyres and just about saved a big slide at turn 3. Anyway, here's a look at the calendar. Of course, Bahrain was last month. Barcelona is today, same day as 24 Hours of Le Mans, which of course is why the World Championship was moved earlier to avoid that clash. Then on 25th of June, later in the month, we've got Montreal. Then we've got Silverstone on 16th of July, Imola on the 6th of August, Spa on the 20th of August, all our classic tracks at the back end then. So Monza on the 10th of September, Suzuka 1st of October, day before my birthday, of course, and Sao Paulo on the 15th of October, where we will know for sure who is going to be the Academy champion. And of course, I've one round down already. Here is the state of play, Nathan. We've got Giuseppe Saracino, who took that shot victory for SimSpark, ahead of Scott Flack, who took pole position, of course. Saracino managed the hybrid battery better to take that lead, and it was not overcome in the final few laps. Daniel Miganov, 3rd for Valet. Then it's Thomas Smit, 4th for Super Venturi. So Super Venturi got some great points with Flack and Smit in the opening round. Sonnebel currently holds 5th position from Istvan Single for Grand Effect. Then it is Alessandro Maggio in the 2nd Valet in 7th, ahead of Matthias Dabrowski for Hyperion, Matthew Clip, owner and founder of Royal Blue, and Adam Buzita in the 2nd SimSpark rounds out your top 10. So it is still closely bunched together, and qualifying is currently underway, Nathan. So lots of guys to look out for. So lots to look forward to. So practice actually underway, not qualifying. I misspoke there. I apologize. But this is a great chance finally to get our eyes in, see how everyone is managing at the moment. With Smith, deciding to have a little crash there with that looks like one of the net wrecks. Oh, is that his teammate actually? Sorry. So the two Super Venturis having some fun at the end of practice, but Smith currently with the fastest time, 1:12.02.
Yeah.
That is a very, very quick time indeed by Academy standards, certainly. So could we see the bar lowered into the 1:11s, I wonder, when we get to qualifying properly? Or will Smith be in a very, very good position with Single, who's infamously a very, very good qualifier in this field, especially with a lot of the quick qualifiers having moved up to pro at the end of last season. So it sort of means that there's a bit of a reset where a lot of our younger drivers are getting to grips with this hybrid FSR car, learning about energy deployment and management with that hybrid electric battery, and also just the new ground effect cars as well. So lots to get to grips with, and the experienced guys will have the advantage early on. But as the season goes on, our young guns are going to find their feet sooner or later, or they may even have to move aside for someone else if they can't, I guess. But Nathan, lots to look forward to. And look at that lovely stretch, that final 2 corners. It's all about commitment as we ride on board with single. Now, it used to have that fiddly Mickey Mouse chicane, as I call it. Now that's not a concern at all. So it means the tyres are a bit more worn, but also it really rewards the bravery and commitment of these drivers on qualifying lap.
Yeah, as you said before, this track, a lot of it is about bravery. You can gain so much time by being a bit more pushy on the tyres, just, especially in qualifying. People in practice, they won't use all their performance. Obviously, you want to hide a little bit of it for the actual qualifying. So we might see mid to high 11s in the qualifying for pole, which I think would be a great time. And I think this track as well, it's great, especially at the start of the season, because it's a very difficult track. But obviously we see it in real life for testing, so you can judge a lot of a driver's skill, and you can see people's weaknesses and strengths from this track alone. You've got so many different types of corners. You used to have the chicane, which was the slow part of the track. You got the mid to high speed around this section here. Then obviously at the start of the track, you got the very high speed. Go through turn 1 through to 3. So it's very easy to see where drivers can struggle and where they have some expertise, but also setup can be quite interesting around here, because obviously generally you want to use high setup, and there's
that's
single
getting
there.
it all wrong. And I was talking about commitment, perhaps a little overcommitted there into the final 2 corners. So single pushing the limits and just that tiny bit beyond, I would say, to put it mildly, as we cut to Dano Brandholm in the Valet. But yeah, exactly what you were saying there. The only thing I would say about this track is overtaking can be a little bit tricky in some of these corners, because a lot of them are high to medium speed, especially like you say with the chicane going. So your best chances are with the DRS, maybe a bit of hybrid power into turn 1, potentially into turn 4 and 5, because you can sort of get the switchback. If you go around the outside into turn 4, it becomes the inside for turn 5. We saw Jene Simičić pulling off that move beautifully on the alternate strategy, but it's strategy that is going to be, I think, the dominant factor in this 40-lap encounter that's going to decide who comes out on top as we go into the final minute of practice before qualifying starts. Because I think a lot of drivers might try and do the Simičić move, try that alternate strategy, start on the harder tyres, and see how long they can last, and then switch to the mediums, or maybe even the softs if they're really good at time management. But I think the mediums and hards are probably more going to be in service today.
Yeah, I think starting the hard tyres might work out, especially near the front of the grid. Because obviously, yes, you might be slow on that initial start, but once you get yourself into that DRS train and you're sitting maybe 3rd or 4th, you're in a great position, because unless you make a grave mistake, the tyres aren't that bad to the point where you're going to lose 8, 9 tenths over a lap. So you can stick in that DRS train. Then when you pit, you might pit a bit later. First of all, you'll have some clearer air once the medium guys have pitted, or the soft guys, and then you can pit onto some new tyres. You might come out a little bit ahead, a little bit behind, but you've got the new medium tyres, which will help, whereas they'll be on the hard tyres. So, it'll be a great advantage, but you've got to make sure if you start on the hard, you can make that first lap work, because it's all based on that first lap. If you make a big mistake, that could be ruined for the strategy.
Yeah, you give yourself too much ground to make up, or you get stuck even worse behind other hard tyre runners on the same strategy, then suddenly you're in trouble. Anyway, so practice ends, and we anticipate eagerly the start of qualifying, don't we, Nathan? And of course, this is your first qualifying session, so you're definitely in for a treat here at FSR. But like we say, the driver standing still closely bunched together, and Saracino did shock us in a way we shouldn't have been shocked, because there was a pre-season Academy Championship where he won 2 of the races and I think finished 2nd to Scott Flack. So it wasn't too big a surprise that those were the front 2. But after qualifying, where Scott Flack set an amazing lap, I sort of expected the Super Venturi to run away with it. But the Australian was slowly reeled in by the Italian, and Saracino really belied his lack of experience. Maybe that's the wrong word. He proved that it wasn't the determining factor in him winning the race, but really, I think there's every chance we could see another shock winner today. Ground effect, interesting one to mention, because they went alternate to everyone else in Bahrain. They started on the softs, and that meant they had to pit early for the hards, and it really played against Esteban Single especially, who took the lead early on but ended up finishing 6th because the strategy just did not work in his favor. He was just a sitting duck late on to the other hard tyre runners that pit a few laps later and had a bit more life in the tyre to play with. So as much as track position is important here, you don't want to be stranded on old tyres at the end of the race, because you could just find everyone going either side of you down the straight, especially if you haven't got any hybrid left either.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's if you're at that point, it's inevitable you're going to be passed by a lot of people. But looking at the qualifying grid as well, obviously, because there's lots of drivers here, more than there is on a normal F1 race weekend. You've got to make sure you can get yourself out in the right time to set your qualifying lap. If you go out in that first train, you've got to make sure you're not too far behind the guys in front. Otherwise, you'll get passed by the people behind. But then if you're too close to the people in front, you're obviously going to lose time. And if you're at the back of the grid, you've got to be careful that the 20 cars in front or how many don't end up bidding it and you end up, sacrificing your lap that way. So you've got to make sure you can be very careful. And the people who got out first, they're in the best position, I think, at the start of this qualifying session.
Yeah, certainly getting your eye and getting that banker lap in as we look at, that must be Matthew Clipp just crossing the line there to start his first lap. So let's ride on board into turn 1 and see what Matthew can produce here. Slightly wide at the apex, but he sets himself well up through turns 2 and 3, and it's really the exit here through that long right-hander. A bit of a killer on the front right tyre, unfortunately, for some of these guys. But you can gain a lot of time if you get the exit right, and a lot of these corners, it's a thing with fast corners, isn't it? You can sort of, it's a slow in, fast out, tends to be the mantra here. You see him go through the tighter turn 5, downhill into Verth, the sort of 6-7 chicane. And it's a bit of an unorthodox overtaking opportunity. We saw a couple of people trying it and sort of just about making it work in the World Championship race, but it does require a bit of cooperation from the other driver, which in Academy is not always guaranteed, but fingers crossed they keep it nice and clean today. Only issue of note, I believe, is Snetfanger's on the grid because he's got that 12th place penalty. I don't see him anywhere, so he might not be able to serve that penalty today, sadly. As we see Brandfarm set the fastest lap so far on the first runs, but that's immediately beaten by Thomas Smit in the Super Venturi, 1:12.019. Very similar lap, slightly slower to what you set in the free practice session then, Nathan.
Yeah, very great starting lap times. And obviously, we've got 7 minutes left, so the lap times will come down possibly to that mid-11, considering we're already getting times a little bit quicker than what we saw at the end of practice. But yeah, great start for the two at the top. What team are they in? I believe they're in the same team.
Super Venturi, yes, it's the Finnish team. So Scott Flack, our man second in the points, who was on pole last time, is only about a 10th away from his teammate. And he set the purple middle sector. He was marginally faster there. And that middle sector is going to be really, really important here because that's the more twisty technical one. So I think that bodes well for Scott Flack in the race. But where is Saracino, our championship leader? There we go. Just as I speak of him, he goes up to third, just at 0.020 behind his championship rival, Scott Flack. So battle very much joined at the front of the grid then, Nathan. Saracino in the SimSpark showing he means business. It wasn't just a flash in the pan in Bahrain. He is back and looking to snatch his first pole of the season, or potentially of his career as well.
And also great for Valet eSports. They've got drivers sitting 4th and 6th. Obviously, Miganov, he was only got the podium in Bahrain, wasn't he? So obviously, you'd like to start higher than 6th, which I think is definitely possible. But on these banker laps, some drivers might, it's all when that's a spin there from, I believe, Saracino, isn't it, into the wall, and that's
Samuel Ivanov.
Ivanov.
I think he might be related to Victor Ivanov, who is one of the Networks drivers in Pro, as we see a replay of one of the valets. But unfortunately, that's not too interesting. So let's never mind that. Let's go back to qualifying then. So a bit of a snap. I think Ivanov being a rookie, that was a bit. We saw exactly the same thing from the Grand Effect in free practice of Istvan Single, didn't we? He was currently top 5 as well, so showing that he's learnt from that mistake and set a pretty decent first lap on the board. Still 6 minutes left to go then in this qualifying session. And Smit, who put in a very impressive drive, had a difficult first lap, dropped to, I think, about 10th or 12th, and then fought his way back up to 4th, I think, by the end of the race. With some good strategic moves, some good overtakes as well. Him and Maggio really had a great battle for several laps in there. So it was Super Venturi versus Valet for quite a while. But and look at the line. Smit's taking it very, very wide through, that looks like turn 11 or 12, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Smith's in a great position at the moment. If he can keep that pole position, that would be really great, considering obviously the team of Super Venturi are sitting, I believe, near enough at the top of the championship partner at the moment. And with 18 points from last rate for Smith, he would definitely wouldn't mind 30 points being added on top of it, because that would give him a great run in the championship. But Saracino as well, obviously sitting third. That's a decent first lap, but I think now we'll start to get the second and third laps coming from these drivers now as we close in on 4 minutes remaining of this qualifying session.
Yes, so I should apologise to Netrex. I've literally just been told that Sam Ivanov is not related to Victor Ivanov. It's just a very common surname in that part of the world. As Smith sets another purple sector on this lap and almost loses it actually through turn 5 there at Sayat Corner. That's such a tricky corner. We're going to see that in the race as well, because that's where the cars tend to bunch up, and you might see a couple of do or die moves on the inside. But really, the Super Venturis, they've set their car up very, very well for qualifying, I think. And we'll have to see if that bites them in the race, if they're a bit harder on their tyres than some of the others. But certainly, with that track position, they can lock out the front row. That bodes very, very well for their chances in the race and being able to control it from the front. But anyway, my apologies to Samuel Ivanov, because I didn't mean to imply anything. It's not like the Sonneveld brothers of House and 10 Sonneveld from TR by Geeks Energy. They're definitely related. Because I've spoken to them, and they've told me so. But anyway, another brilliant lap by Thomas Smith, only slightly slow. Put purple first and second sectors there, both for 22 seconds each. So really flying out there.
Yeah, and Smith, though, was actually down by about 200ths of a second on that lap, so he lost a bit of time in that middle sector. I think.
Yeah, that's his weakest sector, but he's doing enough for pole at the moment, so that shows just how strong the Super Venturi is around here. As we look at Mr. Ivanov setting another lap time. This time he doesn't drop it at the final corner and gets himself up into the top 12 as the leading Netrex driver. So impressive there from Samuel Ivanov, saving a bit of pride for Netrex at the end of this qualifying session. 2.5 minutes remaining as we look at Danove Bramfom looking to get in the mix with the championship contenders. He's not. Look at how close it is up top. It's like everyone is within about 3/10 in the top 7. That is absolutely insane. As you see, Miganov set that purple middle sector there, 27.3. So if he's strong there, that could really make the difference here for these final 2 corners, Nathan, as he struggles to hold on.
Yeah, you look at this final couple of corners, it's in the wall, and just, too much. Then you see every time you go through that corner, it just looks like the person's going to go around, no matter how fast you're going. And I believe this might be a replay. I guess not.
Unfortunately. No, unfortunately, we're seeing live instead of replays, which is a bit of a shame. But let's see who is improving at that. Istvan Single sets the 22-1. Personal best through the first sector, just slightly behind Thomas Smith, but could get him into the top 3, top 4 potentially. We see Maggio going a bit quicker behind. We see Luxak in the royal blue. We see Batala, Canzanieri also improving in the first sector. So let's keep an eye on these guys. There is Saracino, our winner from last time out. And we switch to someone else in their own private session, which is, of course, Single on his flying lap. Oh, a little bit slower in the middle sector, 27.5. So it's going to have to be an almighty final sector here. He's not got much time to set another lap. He will be able to do so if he's got the life in the soft tires that enables him to do so. A lot of thunder in my part of the world, which is a bit worrying. If I get struck by lightning, then I'm not going to be able to commentate. Single crosses the line and remains 5th, so that middle sector cost him there. But he did improve ever so slightly to inch towards Brand Farm.
Yeah, and the top 3 are about to begin their laps now, obviously saving it right to the end of the session. So at this point, the likes of the Super Venturis and Saracino can just push. If they end up losing something now, it's not the end of the world. So at this point, I would be in 100% mode and just get round that lap and try and get yourself into the 111s.
Absolutely. So let's see. Saracino sets a personal best first sector, 22.094. Scott Flack is a bit slower than that, but personal best nonetheless. So Saracino absolutely going for it. It is do or die for the Italian in his sim spot. Can the championship leader launch himself onto the front row here, Nathan? Into turn 10, got to get the braking right here.
Yeah, and he goes through, and very nice. And you can just see get back on the pole, go a little bit wide on that exit just to get you a perfect line going through into turn 11, 12, but a bit wide there for Saracino, so that definitely cost him in this final part of the track.
Yeah, nobody's setting purple sectors at the moment. It's all personal bests or white times. He just about holds on there, and that shows how narrow it is. Can Saracino? No, he's not been able to get on the front row, so it might be a Super Venturi front row lockout unless Valet have anything to say about it. Miganov sets a purple, is that purple second sector there? I believe so. So it's all down to these final 2 corners. Can Daniel Miganov, who finished 3rd last time out, get himself anywhere near the front row? Here we go. It's just a run to the line, and it is going to be 5th behind his teammate for Miganov. So a positive qualifying for Valet, but Super Venturi very much in the box seats, and Scott Flack is finished. So Thomas Smith is almost certainly going to be on pole position as Branfrom crosses the line. He doesn't improve either. So it's all just about positions lower down now. I think Ivanov is on a personal best middle sector, but nobody else improving out there.
Yeah, so very nice there from Smith. And does he improve? I don't think he will he? No.
No, it doesn't really need to, though.
Oh,
Got it
no,
in the
not at that
bag.
point.
Superb quality
Right.
session with Thomas Smith and Super Venturi. So that really shows that the two of them working well together on setup, at least. And that bodes very, very well as long as they can keep the menacing SimSpark of Saracino behind them into turn one. And Samuel Ivanov does improve, but stays down in 14th position behind Stan Vlistra.
You got the two valets as well in 4th and 5th, which is great for them as well. So they should be trying to make something in this qualifying session. I mean, the race.
Absolutely. So shall we very quickly go through the whole order? Whoa, sorry about that, ladies and gents. But it is Thomas Smith that will start the race from pole position from his teammate Scott Flack, the first Super Venturi front row lockout in Academy in their history, which is a big milestone for that team that's leading, of course, in the team's championship. Giuseppe Saracino will start from 3rd position, 1 place lower than he started the first race of the season that he won, of course. Dano Bramfon will start 4th ahead of his teammate Daniel Miganov, so 4th and 5th for Valet. As you say, good place to start from. Istvan Single will start from 6th position for Grand Effect ahead of Romulo Silviera in the Royal Blue. Then it is Maggio in the Valet. Graciak Luksak in the new team, I believe. That's the Build Sim Eva, of course, related to Royal Blue. Then it's Peter Knapp rounding out the top 10 for Royal Blue. Behind them, it is Borotovsky for Loser Racing, his new team, showing off his livery there. Adam Buzita will start 12th in the second SimSpark. Then it is Stan Vlietstra, who will start 13th for Geeks Energy, ahead of Samuel Ivanov. Then it is Lucas Viscott, who will start 15th ahead of Matthew Klipp. Then Patrick Rozak, 17th ahead of Jared Batala. Giuseppe Canzanieri will start 19th ahead of Elise Buzita. Nando Massa will round out the top 20 for Grand Effect, ahead of the valet of Elysia Nunez. Then it is Thomas Andream Harizo in the Royal Blue, Matthias Harvig in the independent entry for Race Room. Then is Ruben van den Hudding, 24th for Netrax. Sophie Jones, 25th in her first appearance of the season. Dmitry Zarov, 26th. Jean-Michel Garnier, 27th. Perseus Miram, 28th. Matthias Dabrowski rounding out top 29 for Hyperion. And is that everyone? I think Elise Buzita will also start the race, but he did not set a qualifying time. So, I did not expect to see a Super Venturi front row lockout, but that definitely sets things up very, very interesting for the race, because Thomas Smith, of course, behind his teammate Scott Flack in the championship. So if Thomas Smith can get a win on the board, that would bode incredibly well for him. But there are a lot of challenges they have to overcome, not just fighting each other, and of course Saracino and Bramfon and Miganov behind, but also their strategy. Are they going to split the strategies at Super Venturi? That's the big question here. Will one start on the hard, the other on the medium, I wonder?
Well, this could be very interesting for Super Venturi, because obviously you've got Flack, who wants to try and take this championship lead from Saracino, same with Schmidt. So these two, they might get a bit, close to comfort, especially when they're teammates. So they've got to think, what do we do? Do we put the Drivers' Championship for one of the drivers over the Team Championship? That's the decision they've got to make. They've got to figure out what they'd rather do. And with strategy, that's the key thing as well. Obviously, they can't both go in together if they're sitting right behind each other. So one will have to go earlier than the other. So that could mean we have one start on the hards or the mediums or the softs.
Yes, but of course, Super Venturi got both cars up there. Paul Saracino, his teammate, is down in 11th position on the grid, so he won't be unless Buzita makes an amazing start. Adam is not really going to be able to help him out too much here. Everyone further down, I think, at those first two corners, we've got the sausage curbs at the inside of turn 2. They can be quite lethal. We've seen that in a couple of other series, not FSR, of course. Everyone's neat and tidy, but but just saying, Academy is the first time for everything to go wrong. And it really is the first two corners and the final two corners where I think people are going to drop it if they're not careful, pushing a bit too hard, and if there's not enough space given to them. But you can run side by side through those final two corners. I've seen it done. It is majestic to watch. So Barcelona, infamously harder to overtake on, but doesn't mean we won't see some action today, especially the Academy guys. If anyone can overtake in unusual places, it's these guys. They haven't had all that experience of being punted off track yet to dissuade them from doing it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think without that final chicane, that will make it really interesting with that final corner, so we can really see if these cars can overtake.
Other thing to keep in mind, I've just remembered, by the way, Richie, is running to turn 1, hybrid power at your disposal.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see those on the front row, I think Super Venturi might just make a break for it so that Saracino can't dive one up the inside into turn 1. But eventually they might react to whatever the tyre choice ends up being when, of course, it does take a while to update on the graphics, so it might be a bit of guesswork involved here.
Yeah.
But if the Super Venturis both go for mediums and Saracino goes for maybe the hards, Saracino's not going to be able to challenge too much into the first corner. But it will be interesting. How many people are going to go for the Simicic strategy because they saw it work in the World Championship? And if they do, how many people are going to be stuck behind each other on the Simicic strategy while the medium runners just frock away up front? Well, frock away? I'm not sure what I'm thinking of a Regency costume drama there. They sprint away is probably what I was going for. And looks like the grid is finally being set up then, Nathan. So we're going to see some action as the formation lap is about to begin.
So we have medium, medium, soft. Is that accurate, or will it change?
We'll see. It may update as we go, but I suspect the Super Venturi is going to start on the mediums. I'm not sure the soft ones are accurate, but at least
Saracino is on. Saracino, is on some yellow tires, so he's on the mediums
Race
as well.
View has a different opinion to what the on-screen graphic says. But let's go through the grid order very, very quickly then. As we said, Super Venturi front row lockout with Thomas Smith leading Scott Flack. Then it is our championship leaders, Giuseppe Saracino, starting third on the second row with Dano Branfom alongside him in the valet. Then Daniel Miganov will start fifth from Istvan Single in sixth, first ground effect. Romulo Silviera will start seventh with Alessandro Maggio nipping at his heels. Then is Gresiek Luksak in ninth ahead of Peter Knapp, rounding out the top 10. Then Andrei Borotovsky for Loser Racing in 11th ahead of Adam Buzita for SimSpark in 12th. Then is Stan Valistra in 13th from newcomer Samuel Ivanov. Lucas Viscott will start 15th. Matthew Klipp, 16th for Royal Blue. Patrick Roczak, 17th from Jared Batala. Giuseppe Canzanieri will start 19th ahead of Elise Buzita. So Elise Buzita did actually set a time, contrary to what I said earlier. Nando Marsa will start 21st. Elisia Nunes, 22nd. Thomas Andriam Harasoa, 23rd. Matthias Harvig, 24th. Ruben van den Hudding, 25th. From Sophie Jones at 26th. Dimitri Zara, 27th. Jean-Michel Garnier will start at 28th from Perseus Miram, and Matthias Dabrowski will round out our top 30, and that is all 30 cars on the grid accounted for then as Smith and Flack go through the final two corners. And this is where you need to make sure you get your tyre and brake temperatures all in the window that you need, and we will see which of the Super Venturis leads, or indeed if Saracino can jump both of them.
Well, actually, I think Smith might be on the hards. I'm sure one of them was on a white wall tyre, so that could be what we said earlier about one start on the hard, one start on the medium. So that could definitely it might not be the best start for Smith if he on these harder tyres, but if he can get it back onto the second part of the lap, warm up the tyres, then he could be in a very good position, I think, in the race to try and at least win if he can get onto the medium wall tyres at the end.
Well, Richie, we're going to know as Dabrowski spots his Hyperion in at the final grid slots in probably a few moments' time, which tyres they all really are starting on. But the Super Venturis have the front row all to themselves here at Circuit de Catalunya. A long run into turn 1. And I see all the drivers with their thumbs on the hybrid power. The lights coming on now. 3, 4, 5. And we are getting underway for round 2 here in Academy. And it's a clean getaway from the front row. One of the Royal Blues rocketing away there. Will he have enough space to make use of his start? The Super Venturis try and hog the middle of the road to prevent Saracino going up the inside. So smoke from the engine starting to overheat. Saracino goes up the inside of Thomas Smith, and it's Scott Flack that leads away into turn 3, Nathan. And everyone seems to get it surprisingly clean behind, but brilliant start from Saracino and Flack then. Our two title contenders, but here comes Thomas Smith rounding outside into turn 4.
Yeah, and they're both on the soft tire, on the hard tyres, whereas Flack, I believe, is on the medium, so he's going to have a really good start now. And still, these two at it, and Saracino there seem to back off. Was going to look for a switchback, I think, into turn 5, but couldn't make it work. But great start from Flack there to take that early lead, and he's already broke the 1 second gap, 1 lap in, so this is great at the moment for Flack.
Exactly. So Flack is on the, contrary to what the graphic says, Flack is on the softs. Smith and Saracino both on the hards, Single on the mediums, Branfoam on the hards, and Maggio and Miganov both on the mediums themselves, with a big bunch of hard runners behind them. So the alternate strategy, it is popular today. But Flack, he needed that track position, and he absolutely got it. Now he needs to make hay while the sun shines, because the problem is those soft tyres, they're only going to be good for so long. So Smith and Saracino will close in towards the end of this stint if Flack is not able to keep them alive.
Yeah, and I think with all these different tyres being played, this is going to be great. Anyone can come out on top here with all these different tyre strategies coming into play. I believe now that is single, isn't it, on the back of Saracino going into turn 1.
Yeah, single on the mediums. Can he get the run? He's using a little bit of hybrid power alongside. There goes Saracino, is not willing to give way and absolutely forces his defense single back out of the way. And single, probably a little bit miffed with that, but I'm sure it won't be dissuaded from trying again. I thought he had the inside there, but Saracino was a tougher nut to crack than even I imagined, which shows exactly why he's leading the championship.
Yep, and he's now about a second back off of Smith, so that's not ideal at all for Saracino because it puts him under more pressure from single, and I believe that's 3 valets behind, isn't it? Branthel, Maggio and Miganov all sitting together, so they're having a very decent start. Obviously one of them, from what we can see, is on the hards and the other 2 on the mediums, so yeah, their pit stop will be also interesting.
Yeah, and unfortunately it's the driver on the harder tyres, Branthel, that leads the train, which is going to be much of the frustration of Maggio and Miganov. But Richie, we're about to see a replay of the start. This is one of the runners a bit further back then. And gets hit behind. The rear wing takeoff. I think that's one of the valets. That must be Elisia Nunez being completely collected by somebody, and it may have been Zarov who hit him, because I think he's at the back as well, and that potentially is a big. That was a Royal Blue, I think, that hit him of Zarov.
See, from my screen, it looked like he kind of stopped. It looked like the car slowed down on the start, so not sure what happened there. Not sure if there's a bit of lag or something, but it looks like he went, but then the car kind of slowed down. Which obviously is no wonder why someone went into the back of him at the start of the race.
And of course,
there we are.
That
Flat
somewhat
leading.
echoes as we see Scott Flack get a 2.9 second gap over Thomas Smith. So Smith holding up Saracino, doing all the work for him, it would seem, apart from sprinting away, of course, which is what Scott Flack's job is on the soft tyres. Miganov has actually got the mediums up to temperature. He's set a purple first sector using the DRS behind Dano Branthel, his teammate. But actually, he's 0.7 seconds. Actually, he's out of DRS range, so that is an impressive first sector that Miganov has set there. But the start crash there reminded me a lot of what we saw in World Championship 2 weeks ago between, it was Tom Latiou, who basically overheated the engine, was stranded on the green, got collected by the Super Venturi of Jan Granqvist, who will not thank me for reminding him of that. Of course, I'm sure he's watching this as we see side by side. This is Rozak going up the inside of Samuel Ivanov, and Buzita is right behind, looking to take advantage as well.
Yep, so, these midfield battles will be very insane, especially in this final part of the set, because everyone will be trying to bunch up together, just try and make a move if they can, because you want to be making moves early, especially when you're on those, softer tyres. And we've already got people pitting, or is that the DRS activation?
I think that's the DRS.
Yeah.
Here we go. There's the loser racing of Buzita. There's Elise Buzita making up a position there over his brother Adam in the SimSpark, actually. Oh, no, he's right behind him now. He's got through Marsa in the ground effect. So Marsa sadly on the medium tire, being shuffled out there by another medium tire runner. As here we go. Here's Buzita getting past Ivanov into turn 4. Ivanov didn't get a great run through turn 3. And the SimSpark didn't need a second invitation. Through again.
Yep. And I think with Flat now, he's in by, 4 seconds? So the issue he has now is he'll have to nurse those hards very long to the end. So he could definitely lose time from that. So he's got to he's got to keep pushing those soft tyres. He's got to be basically doing qualifying laps at this point just to get that large gap. So when he does pit onto the hards, obviously, we need to make sure he can just keep that gap, high and just nurse the tyres all the way to the end. Because the likes of Smith and Single Saracino can all just nurse their tyres.
Here we go. Ivanov really struggling through turn 10 there, and that allows Elise Buzita to try around the outside there, but Ivanov just holding on by the skin of his teeth. But I think some inexperience are showing here. The interesting thing that's happened up front is the valets have swapped positions. Branthel has let his teammate Miganov through as Maggio, I think, has hit trouble. He's dropped to the back of the hard tyre track. Now he's dropping even further. I think
into the wall.
Oh dear, I think Maggio could be out of the race then, as we see Marsa counter-attacking Buzita down the main straight using DRS and a little bit of his hybrid power to just force his way through. Enough space left there to avoid any serious contact between the pair of them. But that is a shame for Valet. Maggio's race is over 5 laps then.
Yep, and I believe we're not going to replay what happened there to Maggio. As we wait for it to low, there we are. So
it was the final corner.
Ooh, just on that curb there, very unpredictable, isn't that curb?
Oh, and it's so lucky he didn't take out the ground effect there.
Yeah.
That was right along the side, either side. So I think that must have been Single has got himself up to 3rd ahead of Saracino there. So I've completely lost track of that. So Single on the mediums is overtaking Saracino on the hards, and now Miganov is right behind Saracino as well, having been let through by Brandbomb. So it's all change from third onwards. There's a cracking battle for the podium, but the Super Venturis have got Flack. It's all working his way at the moment, but the strategy will be interesting later on because Flack is going to have to nurse those hard tires, like you say, Nathan, all the way to the end once he changes. We are on lap 6 out of 40 then. And look up front, you can see, is that one of the Super Venturis trying to lap somebody there?
I believe also Saracino, it doesn't look like he's got that ultimate pace, does he? He seems like he's losing lots of time. He's over a second and a half back from Smith now. He's
and Single is now ahead of Smith. So this is an amazing stint from Istvan Single as we see, Sophie Jones just forcing her way through on Elise Buzita into tunnel. So Loser Racing lose another position, sadly, much to the joy of Sophie Jones, though, who will now set off on the soft tyres after Nandor Masa.
Yep. And as I was saying, Saracino's under more pressure from Miganov now, so he's got to really put some pace down. Otherwise, he's going to lose more and more positions. Luckily, I believe from what we can see, for the cars behind on hards, if that's true, then he's got to, it's a bit better for him. But if those are on mediums or softs, he can just be eaten up by the grid.
Yeah, and it feels like almost like a reverse of the previous race because Single and Grand Effect have gone for the medium tires rather than the softs, and it's the others. It's the Super Venturi of Flack, Adam Buzita, and the valet of Sophie Jones that have gone for the soft tires here to gamble. I think Scott Flack is the only one who might be able to make that strategy work because he's got that free air, but of course he will be lapping some of the stragglers without wishing to be too disparaging to the tail enders in this field because they are still good enough to be there, having got through in the amateur race earlier on. Saracino still under pressure though from Daniel Miganov, of course, who Saracino breezed by in the pit stop phase at Bahrain, but Miganov putting up a much sterner challenge here. Of course, he's got the tyre compound in his favour, being one step softer on the mediums than Saracino on the hards. Smith and Saracino have got to hope that the mediums start decaying soon because otherwise in this heat, what temperature is it? It's 38 degrees track temperature, so still pretty hot. Ambient temperature 22 degrees, no sign of rain, of course, as we go towards the end of lap 7 then. And it seems to have calmed down just that little bit, Nathan, although I say that, it's bound to heat up again as soon as I finish that sentence.
Yep, that's probably what's going to happen. It seems the commentator's curse always comes into play. As soon as you say something won't happen, it does for definite. And we come through here, up into turn 9. There's about 6-7 cars altogether. And the issue the cars have got at the back of this train is they're just not going to progress forward. Because with the DRS train, once you're in it and you're 6 cars back, unless you are some madman on these tyres, you are not going to get yourself through that grid at all. So that's the issue some of these guys have got, such as... is it Batella? Is that you say it, I believe?
Buzita. Or is what I'm calling it.
No, the guy behind the 18.
Borotovsky and Samuel Ivanov is out of the race, so accident for the net race driver has eliminated from the rain. We saw him struggling on the hards earlier, and it seems that Ivanov's race has sadly come to a premature end, and it's at those final. Oh, he's lost it. That's a very odd place to lose it in turn 11 and 12 there, just on the exit. Got on the power too soon. The hards cried enough. The rear wing fell off. And Ivanov, sadly, that's a little bit of a inauspicious debut after a somewhat promising qualifying, but I'm sure we'll see him back next time out in Montreal.
Well, unfortunately, after watching that, it's given me a bit of PTSD, because on the F122 game, I did the exact same thing there as what Ivanov did. And it's something that it's like, you sit there and you think, how did that happen? Because you looked at it, it just doesn't, it's not a type of thing that happens very often, so you're like, hang on, what did I do wrong there? So yeah, I presume that's what Ivanov will also be thinking after that one. But it's a big shame to see him out the race. Obviously, there's still another 32 laps to go, so anything can happen in this. So yeah, big unfortunate for him. But I've noticed, looking at these cars, it seems like generally they've got quite low downforce because people seem to be losing the cars very easily. In other Formula cars, especially like in the Formula 1 game, people. Or the cars themselves,
and a visual illustration of that from Patrick Rozak, who manages to get a 360 in there. Well held, son. But unfortunately, Adam Buzita on the soft tyres is through and released to unleash that pace in the top 10 now. But a great save from the Hyperion.
I thought that was in the wall then. That was an absolute mega save there from Rozak.
Absolutely scarum riding on board, looking at the rear wing there. But let's have another look then at that spin for Patrick Rozak. So he gets on the curve, understeers a bit, that puts him on the, so he nearly did exactly what Maggio did, but he was able to get out of the throttle in time and just to open up the steering to spin himself the right way around. That takes a lot of instincts, a lot of almost rallycross style driving, as we see Nando Massa being overtaken by Sophie Jones in the top 12. So the interesting thing here is all these drivers on the softs, when they pit, like you were saying, they're going to have the same trouble that a lot of the medium runners are running into now, which is they're going to be stuck behind the guys on the hard tires.
Yeah.
So Scott Flack, even though he's building up a gap, he's going to come out somewhere in the lower end of the top 10 around, let's see, Adam Buzita, Patrick Rozak territory, isn't he? 22 seconds or whatever it is for a pit stop here. And Single is a real fly in the ointment for Super Ventures because he's been able to get ahead of Thomas Smith. So we've got our top 3 runners on completely different strategies, it seems, which is absolutely brilliant, really, for Academy, because we don't know which way it's going to go. It could be that Scott Flack is able to make up the ground. Can Single on the in-between strategy make it work? Or can Smith, just going long, hold off Saracino, who's still 9/10 behind him?
Yep, and I think this is a move here for, I believe, P16. The inside.
Yeah,
Very nice.
That is Ruben van den Hudding in the Netrex, clearing both of the Royal Blues of Batala and Clip. Of course, Royal Blue have been champions in Academy before. In 2021, they won the Pro Championship last year, and now this season they're in World Championship for the first time. But they certainly, Academy is probably the series that Royal Blue, I don't want to say, well, I mean, by definition, it's Academy, so you've got your drivers in there to learn to become better drivers so they can move up to Pro and eventually World Championship. But it's great to see Matthew Clip here pushing his drivers on and showing what he can do. He's not just a team owner, he puts his money where his mouth is, a manager as well. So great to see Matthew lighting up the timing screw. We saw him finish in the top 10 in Bahrain. He's got a bit of work to do down in 18th at the moment, but I'm sure Batala might just move aside for him if he thinks that those hards are in better nick.
Have to say, obviously, you know, the team, surely, when you're sitting down in 17th and 18th, you want to put the team first. It's not like you're fighting for, you know, a P1 or a P2. So, you know,
they have got their teammates a bit further up in the form of Silviera and Peter Knapp having a much better run in the top 9 and on the hard tyres as well. There's that big train of hard tyres from Brandfoam to Silviera to Viscott to Knapp, all stuck together basically within a couple of seconds. There we go. Batala let him through.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It looked like he just let him straight through that end. So
almost like they were listening to us, weren't they? Literally.
So now it's going to see if Quick can try and get himself back into this train, because I think he's very close, about 7/10 back of Hudding, so he's got a little bit of time to make up, but surely that shouldn't be much of an issue. But as I was saying earlier with Rozak, obviously he made a demonstration of what I was on about, the fact that the downforce seems quite low, so it's very easy for cars just to lose their ear, and also the ride height seems low as well, so you know you can't just bounce the curbs like you would you know in some other in the F122 game. You can just bounce curbs completely, but it seems with these cars, you touch that curb, you are straight round.
Now look at this. This is very interesting indeed, because it looks like the soft tyres are starting to wear. Because Nando Massa on the mediums has made it back past Sophie Jones. Buzita has fallen to 3.7 seconds behind Peter Knapp. And Scott Flack has lost almost a second to Istvan Single on the mediums behind him. So could it be time for Super Venturi to call Scott Flack in? Could he in fact even be forced into a 2-stop strategy on the mediums? That would be interesting, but I suspect he's going to try and go as long as he can to switch to the hards. And make it to the end. This is 40 laps. It's sort of one-stop territory for a lot of these guys. But the guys on the softs are giving themselves a lot of work to do at the end of this stint, and it's going to be painful. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Single coast up to the back of Scott Flack before too long, because he has done really well to build a gap to Smith behind him. And Single, who was sort of the lead driver for Grand Effect in Academy, with champion Salagianis moving up to Pro, he's really showing what he's made of in this race. I have been very impressed, actually. It seems Grand Effect, now they've got the strategy playing a bit more in their favour, has given Single a bit more room to work with. He's been able to really deliver in this race, going from 4th or 5th to 2nd.
Yeah, but surely Flack needs to fit in the next 3 or 4 laps, which means he'll do at least 24 laps on the hard, which I think is a very long stint. So he will really need to be managing those tyres. So, it might not go the way of Flack as we thought it would now. I'm starting to think actually Zingle is probably in the best position by far. Obviously he's over about 2 seconds ahead of Smith. He's right behind a car that's on worse tyres that will be running a longer strategy. At this point in time, I think Zingle could be looking possibly to try and take the win, and I believe that was Borotowski there going to that curb, and it's very easy to lose the rear, and he made it perfect, so very nice there.
And we see the two loser racing drivers working together. So Buzita giving his teammate Boratowski, who's the team owner as well, some DRS. And some of these may be confused because Boratowski was driving for Grand Effect in the season opener and has since switched over. And there we go. Look at Scott Flack. He's hemorrhaging lap time. Last lap, 1:17.8. Singles last lap, 1:17.1. So that's nearly 7/10, nearly a whole second that a single is taken out of him. So Scott Flack is starting to look very, very vulnerable indeed. The softs are burning up here on this hot Barcelona track. These long corners just taking life out of the fronts. And Scott Flack, he's had enough. He's bailing for the pit lane. So Single will inherit the lead.
Yep. This is great for Single now because Flack, he must have made a mistake. Surely lost 2 seconds in the lap. So, and obviously with Smith, you can see 1.8 seconds back, and then Saracino 3.2. This is great for Single now. Yes, it will be under a bit of compromisation because of him being on the hards at the end of the race, but I think if he can keep that gap above a second, it's going to be very difficult for Smith to try and get up and pass on that second stint. But there we are. That is Flack Winate, I believe, just behind Rozak going into turn 1. So only dropped to P11. He's only got a few cars to make up on, so it's not the worst pit stop there for Flack.
Yeah, comfortably ahead of Nandor Master, importantly. So he won't get too involved in those battles further down. I think what Scott Flack hoping he just keeps making progress. But the thing is, he's got that train of hard tyre guys ahead of him. So even if Rozak and Buzita, especially Adam Buzita, is going to be on very worn softs, just like Scott Flack was not too long ago. Once he gets through, though, he's going to sort of be stuck behind Peter Knapp and Lucas Viscott and Romeo Silveira and Brandvom, who are going to be out for quite a while in this stint. And it's going to be quite difficult to pass unless there's some strategic use of DRS and hybrid push to pass from Scott Flack. But like you say, Single now, what Super Venturi were really hoping was Smith would be able to keep Single at bay and sort of dictate the pace, essentially, and hold him up. But because Single made it through, that has really torn asunder Super Venturi's strategy and given Scott Flack a much harder job to do than he would have otherwise. Because if the pack was all bunched together, he'd be able to slot in as Miganov is bailing out from the mediums, which is surprising. So, fed up from being stuck behind Saracino, he's gone for the pit lane.
Yeah, so it's a very bold strategy there, pitting already. We'll have to see if it works. Obviously, he thinks these hards can go very long. And
here comes Scott Flack then, using the DRS and perhaps a little bit of hybrid power too, but no defense whatsoever put up from Patrick Rozak, who of course had that massive spin early to the tyres, even on the mediums, not in particularly good nick. Now Buzita is the next target in the SimSpark. Buzita will be desperately trying to help his teammate Saracino out in the championship. So even on those softs, I can't imagine Adam Buzita is going to make it quite as easy as Patrick Rozak was forced to do there. But Scott Flack, he'll just make sure that he can force the issue and prevent being held up here. 5-second gap between Buzita and Knapp. So that is exactly where Scott Flack wants to be because he doesn't want to lose any time here. Look at the gap to Single, 22.4 seconds then. So at the moment, Single, I think, would just about come out side by side or maybe perhaps even ahead.
Yeah, if he can hold Flack back, this would be perfect for Saracino. You can see they're going down into turn 10, moving over to the right-hand side. He's going to, if he can, go very slow through this section because obviously it's very hard to pass through here anyway. So if he can just coast the car through, not take too much power, which you can see he's doing them, Flack nearly dropping into the back of him, going through 10, 11 and 12. So this could be working heavily, especially for Single. Not as much for Saracino, but we'll see. And that's leave Buzita pitting.
Very wise from Adam Buzita. It's holding him up a little bit, but not enough that you get in trouble for blocking. I suppose there isn't really a rule against blocking in FSR. But there we go. There is Smith then, 1.7 then behind Single. So now we get into the territory where the mediums may start to come under strain and the hards will come into their own. Scott Flack, though, has got plenty of gap to work. 6 seconds to Peter Knapp, so he lost nearly a second, actually, behind Adam Buzita, who comes out. I think Miganov may have had a bigger issue because he has come out right behind Buzita, despite coming in ahead.
Yeah.
The Valet's race is starting to fall apart with, unfortunately, we saw Nunes being taken out at the start. Zaharov not going very far either. And Maggio spinning at the final quarter, hitting the walls. So we've only really got Brandvom left in the running already in the top 4. So it is not the title defense so far that Valet really would have hoped for. But let's hope Brandvom can keep the pressure on Saracino. He's about 5.7 behind, but Silveira is all over the back of him. And there's Single coming in.
So, that's a very early. So he's going to go 23 laps on these hards. So maybe this isn't all over for Scott Flack. I always thought surely he'd need to pit around lap around lap 20, 21, because generally you can go a little bit longer on those mediums than you can with the hards, because obviously with the mediums you still die quicker, but with the hards, the degradation, because they're slow anyway, you know, you do 25, like you do like 20 laps on them, and they will be a lot slower, not just because of degradation, just because of how those tyres are. So with the medium tyre, you got 20 laps, the tyres might be 5 tenths slower, but with the hard, you do 15 laps, you might be 5 tenths slower at that point as well. It doesn't mean you'll actually be. It doesn't mean the tyres themselves will be slower, but because of the way the track is, you just will be.
Yeah, now Scott Flack is going to be on 3-lap older tyres than Esteban Single. That could really make a difference in the race. And Single, from being, 4 seconds behind before the pit stops there, before the softs start to fade on lap 12 and 13 there, he's now only about a second ahead then. So this is really max pressure on Scott Flack then to make sure he doesn't lose time. He's 18 seconds out behind new leader Thomas Smith, who's surely going to extend as much as he can with Saracino out of DRS range 1.3 behind him. Silviera is 6 tenths behind Brandfarm, so it could be that Valle are about to be shuffled out of the top 4 by Royal Blue Racing.
And I think with Smith and Saracino, they'll pit between lap 22, lap 27, I think, they'll pit onto their mediums. Unless they want to go to soft, they might pit a bit later, probably around lap 28, 29. But I think if you want to defend, you want to pit in the next 7 or 8 laps. If you want to have to attack, you want to pit in the last 10 laps, realistically.
A bit risky there from Saracino into turn 4. So he went right to the outside onto the curb, almost sort of half drifted it in. That shows, I think, him maybe doing a bit of a hybrid energy regeneration for later. Remember, 120 kilowatts to play with for all of these drivers across this race. And some of them will be harvesting, some of them will be deploying at various different stages. Matthew Clip sets personal best lap of the race. He's got up to 13th on the hard tyres, having not pit yet. So that's really impressive from the Royal Blue driver, making good use of the gap given to him by his teammate, and he's now right behind Ruben van den Hudding and the mediums. It's interesting the mediums have not been able to go as long as I think many would have predicted. They're almost only a little bit better than 4 or 5 or 3 laps longer than the softs in some cases.
And the great thing as well for the top 2 is the fact that Brownthorne is 10 seconds back, so they've got lots of clean air ahead now to think if they do make a mistake by battling hard, they're not going to lose too much time to those 3rd and below. But yeah, Saracino's, you can see just about in that 1 second. So
it's the 7 tenths, remember, that he needs down the straight because it's such a long straight. So Saracino definitely pushing at this phase, and Flack, let's hope he's kept those hard tyres in condition because he's going to need them at this point. It's going to come down to when they pit, they're going to come out again in sort of Rozak, Marsa, and then Marsa pits now on the medium, so they're going to come out in sort of 10th, 11th sort of territory, like we saw our runners Single and Flack do earlier. Single 1.1 behind Scott Flack in 7th and 8th place respectively, though. So all the top 8 currently on hards, but it is the people in 7th and 8th that probably won't have to pit again, and this is where the delta, they need to go as long as possible. But not too long, because they don't want to run out of laps to do their charge at the end when they pit, of course. That is the problem with the alternate strategy, that often, if you can't get the gap that gives you not a decent amount, not too much amount of work to do in that final stint, if you're too far behind, then it doesn't matter how fresh your tyres are, you're going to run out of laps and time and sort of space to sort of catch them in.
Oh, definitely. And I think as well with Flack, he's 18 seconds back, so he's starting to get a little bit onto this front pack. But I think the issue that Flack will have is, once Smith and Saracino come out, first of all, they're going to be on softer tyres, so they'll be quicker generally anyway, but also their tyres will be newer. So, Flack's going to be in a really dodgy situation in terms of he'll have to be defending hard for him to try and keep this position. The moment, yes, he is in that net P1 ahead of Zingle, but I think he's going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to keep that P1, and same for Zingle if he wants to keep P2 as well.
Exactly. I was thinking, hard. Is that a strategy there? Is you see Matthew Clip take 10th place away from Ruben van den Hudding, which is very impressive there, as Hudding is pitting, of course. So that's why that's happening. But Saracino is still agonizingly just a 10th away from DRS rank. So Smith is managing it incredibly well so far, I have to say. And it's really going to come down to who makes a mistake here in this battle. Potentially it could come down to even the pit stops, who gets the more favorable pit box. Although I hope it's a fair fight between them, because you do get that in rFactor 2 sometimes, where if you're occupying someone else's pit box and they're pitting at the same time, it can really get you into a bit of trouble and you lose time that you need not have lost, which I'm sure is the bane of every racing driver. And there, Smith just starting to pull away again from Saracino. The gap now a second. Also pulling away is Brandfarm. He's got the gap to 1.2 to Romulo Silviera. So the Royal Blue is starting to wear out its heart a little bit. And everyone in sort of tyre saving mode up front, aren't they? As Single and Flack in 15 and 17 seconds respectively of the lead there. So when the people ahead pit, they're going to comfortably come out ahead. But now Flack is 8/10 right behind Peter Knapp then in the third Super Venturi. So, Peter Knapp in the Royal Blue, sorry. So Peter Knapp isn't going to make it particularly easy for Scott Flack, I imagine.
No, and then all it'll do is it'll bring Zingle closer and closer to, because Zingle possibly try and get move on Flack, depending what these cars ahead are going to do. Obviously, at the 2 Royal Blues, and then that's, I believe, one of the other Grand Effect cars, isn't it? Sitting
it's
in the top
Lucas
5.
Viscott. It's Mr. Viscott, who I believe doesn't have a whole lot of experience. I'm not familiar with him in Academy, so great to see him putting on a show there. And I believe everyone in the field is on the hard tyres at the moment, which tells you a lot about the way the strategies are starting to converge, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there we go. I think it will be very, very... I can't really call a winner at the moment. I think it's really between Smith, Saracino, and then Flack Single. It depends which strategy plays out at the moment. I have a feeling it is going to be Scott Flack because he keeps getting the time down. As long as he can clear Knapp and Viscott fairly quickly, or if they pit before he has to, then I think Scott Flack is going to come out with enough of a gap to hold on, as Miganov, having lost so much time earlier with an issue we don't really know yet, is saying, oh, here we go, Single round the outside then of Scott Flack, and that is absolutely crucial. Wow, what a brave move from Istvan Single, using the hybrid, using the DRS exactly the right moment, and it looked like Peter Knapp going into the pit lane was just enough to delay Scott Flack momentarily there, and crucial move. Now Single is in the box seats.
You'll remember, obviously, he went medium hard, whereas Flack went soft hard. So Zingle's tyres are a lot newer, so he will get through easy. And then the good thing is, now Zingle's got through on Flack, he can get through on Viscott, then Viscott can hold Flack
up.
Viscott's
got no reason to hold him up, has he? Unless he wants to make a bit of a nuisance of himself in Grand Effect.
I can't see him holding Zingle up, but he'll definitely hold Flack up, which this is, I think, crucial now. I think Zingle's probably in the prime position now for trying to win this race, and he'll try and catch up on his teammates, surely. Go on, Viscott, let him through.
Well, he also needs to give him a bit of DRS before he does so as well.
True. Just don't be the teammate that we all don't want.
Yes, so this is tense times for Grand Effect manager Jose Ignacio, who is watching this, no doubt, with intense interest, because suddenly the race has absolutely opened up for them. Here they go down the straight. I don't think Single is going to be quite close enough to get too much of a tow from his teammate Lucas, but Viscott remains ahead and breaks very, very early actually into turn 1, which now allows the Grand Effect of the sister Grand Effect of Single to really get in range, as it were. Up front, by the way, Saracino still a second exactly behind Thomas Smith, so he's not let up his pursuit of him whatsoever. And Smith still doing everything he can to try and make the strategy work. 15 seconds to Single, and Scott Flack about another 8 down. So Flack is not out of this yet, but that is a big setback there that he's had to suffer, as Batala and Dabrowski also enter the pit lane.
And DRS for Saracino there, because he's 5 tenths back now, so maybe there's a bit of a mistake there from Smith, because there was about a second, they're now 5, 6, 7 tenths together. But luckily for these two, because they're not fighting too hard, they can just sit behind each other and not worry about the DRS, because they're not going to lose much time. So at the moment it's going well for those top two, but it seems that Viscott's actually starting to hold up Zingle a little bit, isn't he? He's lost about a second.
Well, he's sort of caught him in the middle sector here, which is not ideal. And it was the middle sector that was very poor for Smith on this lap. He was 3 tenths slower, and he's come into the pit lane. So that is an early stop on the hard tyre, and Saracino shattering him on the same lap. So our 2 leaders pit. This means Silviera is going to inherit the lead from Brandfong.
And now surely Zingle will get himself through.
Yeah, DRS. No need to waste hybrid power on his teammate here. He's going to need that later on to defend, because potentially, if it comes down to Smith now out on the mediums with Saracino right behind him in 6th and 7th, so they haven't got as much ground to make up. That is the thing about the alternate strategy. If you can get the space you need, then it can play to your advantage. So now, let's see how far behind Smith is to his teammate, Scott Flack. It's about 11 seconds, isn't it?
Smith on hards?
Yeah, both Saracino and Smith on the mediums, I believe.
Yeah, because they was on the hards.
It says on race view they're both on the medium, so I'm going to go with that. But Thomas Andrew Harizoa also pits now in the Royal Blue, which is his race progressing fairly nicely, sort of in the top 15 sort of territory. But now Super Venturi have got to decide who they're going to back to win this race, Flack or Smith, because Flack is now 1.2 behind Viscott. Now Single has made it through. So Flack's chances are fading at this point, really. Starting on the softs, it didn't pay out for him. He needed a bigger gap or maybe to just keep them alive a bit longer to get his strategy to work. So it's left him with too much work to do. So Smith, they've got to back Smith surely at this point.
I would say that as well. I think you'd want to let them race, but the issue that has been so early in the season, you don't have that risk of them both being dinner. So I would say Max Schmidt is going to be quicker anyway. If he does gain. If he does gain, then let him through. If not, then let Scott take it. But we'll have to see because the gap's what 5-6 seconds between those two. Luckily, Viscott's doing a great job for Zingle, sorry, because he's starting to lose about 1.5-2 seconds back of a Flack now, off Single, sorry. So this is going Zingle's way heavily. They've got to gain 7 seconds on him, which I think, considering they've also got to get through on Flack, it could be a difficult job. And I presume Viscott will stay it as long as he can to defend who he can.
Has Silviera been disqualified or something? Because I saw him pit and now he's disappeared. Luxac has gone into the pits as well. So troubling times for Royal Blue there. Silviera disappearing off the board completely, which I'm not sure was part of the race strategy. Daniel Brandtholm now inherits the lead, but he's only about 2.1 seconds ahead of Single. And of course, he's been doing all 24 laps on those hards. So they're going to be pretty spent at this point. The heat has made people have to pit a lot earlier than I think they ideally would have wanted to. We could even see a few two-stoppers in there. Going for another stint on the mediums or in fact even the softs if it's so close to the end. But Single with Viscott still staying out and holding up Flack, who's now half a second behind us. Out into the pits comes Viscott and Brandtholm as well. So this means Single and Flack re-inherit first and second position.
And to be fair, I'm surprised they put that gap.
And look at
down.
Smith. Yeah, 3.5. That's a 1:15.6 that he's just set. Fastest lap of the race. Still a second ahead of Saracino, who's set a 1:15.7. So they are lapping about a second faster than the guys in front of them. They're surely going to catch them sooner rather than later. The alternate strategy is paying off big time at the moment.
I think obviously Super Venturi will want one of them to win. I think now it looks like the most likely chance will be for Smith. So it would make very good sense for them to let Smith through and Flack and then try and chase after Zingle. So at the moment, it's still possible that we could have. Well, I think we'll have both of them on the podium. But it'd be nice if we could get a top two, but that would mean Zingle need to make a mistake.
Yeah, and the thing is here, so what's the plan here for Super Venturi? Let Scott Flack to let Thomas Smith through and just hold up Saracino for as long as possible. Oh. Because if there's a big fight here, then it's going to play into Single's hand, surely.
Well, that could work. Let Flack hold Saracino. That if he can hold him up, then it'd work heavily because he'd sort out the P3. But is it worth trying to defend on those tyres because they're slower? You don't know. If you make one slight mistake, then Saracino's up the road, gone.
Yeah, I wonder if Scott Flack is going to get to the point where the management will be so bad he might even have to come in for another stop near the end just to avoid any kind of dropping off the cliff completely. As we see one of the valets exit the pits in front of them. I think that's somebody a lap down then. That must be Jean-Michel. Is that Jean-Michel Garnier or Luxac ahead of him?
I think it is, yeah, just coming out the pit lane.
It's not one of the valets then. Apologies. As Harvig now pits from 20 seconds. A little bit of a tricky race for Matthias Harvig. As is that Viscott getting past to Adam Buzita. No, Peter Knapp, I think, being overtaken by Brandtholm. So Brandtholm is about 15 seconds down. So there's a big fight for fifth behind all these top four that are fighting for victory then. Amazing that we got four guys on two different strategies all fighting for the lead here. This could really go either way depending on how this plays out, because Smith has still got 2.7 seconds to make up to Flack. Flack is 2.6 behind Single, and Saracino 7 tenths right in range of Thomas Smith now. Could he even overtake before they catch Scott Flack?
Smith needs to push hard now. He made a lot of ground up on those first couple laps, but it seems now he's not gaining the ground up he'd like to. He needs to be gaining at least 3 or 4 tenths a lap at this point.
The thing is, if they burn up the mediums as well, then the hard tyres could start. Single could just start to eke away just that little bit. Or if the delta isn't as big, then Single, if he's not been caught by a second lap, but just by half a second, 4 tenths or something like that, then he might be able to just hold on before they catch him.
It's a difficult one, isn't it, now, for all the top four, what to do. I'd say, strategy is a key part of this, and I think any of them that come out will win, not just because of pure base, but because of the strategy they took. So at the moment, you got Single obviously gone medium hard, so he's on newer hards. You've got Flack, who pitted a lot earlier on his hards, so he's obviously on the soft hard strategy. Then you got Smith and Saracino on the hard medium. So you got 3 strategies fighting for that top spot. I think at the moment Saracino's probably out of it for the win. Podium still definitely possible over one of these hard runners, but I think at the moment Smith is the one who's favourable to take P2, and I think if he can push very heavily, possibly a P1's possible, but I think that's going to be very unlikely now, considering we've got 12 laps left. These mediums eventually will start to die themselves.
And this is turning into a very, very good afternoon for Ground Effect at the moment. Single leading. Viscott has just set fastest lap to close in on Peter Knapp. He's trying to get 6th position. And then we got Marsa holding on the hard tyres in 11th on a very similar strategy to Single, I believe. Yeah, I think he had to pit. I think actually they pit on the same lap, didn't they? Because they're on 9-lap old hard tyres. Oh dear, this looks like this must be Luxac. Re-overtaking Scott Flack, so that shows you the state of Flack's tyres as Viscott is coming into the pits again.
Oh, he's DNF'd.
And Saracino gets past Thomas Smith then for 3rd position into the first couple of corners. So hybrid and DRS being used at a crucial time there. We saw him do this in Bahrain as well. And Thomas Smith could not keep any. Thomas Smith, the overtaking gig's not been able so good in defense, has he? Because I think that's the second time that the first Single and now Saracino have been able to get through him. And now Scott Flack is surely absolutely defenseless then against the much fresher tyres of Giuseppe Saracino.
Well, Viscott's out the race now, so I'm not sure why he's out. He must have been pitted to DNF.
Just as I was saying, what a great day it was turning into for Ground Effect. But I guess Marsa moves up to 10th, so that is... Oh, he's lost it at turn 9 at Campsa. In the rear wing, and I think even one of the rear tyres has been badly hit there too, so the steering was crabbing. And that is... we actually, I tell you what, in the World Championship race, we saw... what's the driver? It was the Estonian guy whose name Santa Callas, of course, drop it at the same point. And Santa Callas had a really difficult race. Look, there is the gap then between Single, Luxac, and now, here we go. Saracino goes to the inside. That's a brave move there. Can Flack survive around the outside? They come together. And off track goes Scott Flack. And this is going to allow Smith, actually, to get ahead. And now challenge up the inside as they approach turn 4 there. But what a messy, messy moment. The two title contenders coming together there. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Flack come in for fresh tyres now. Because surely this strategy is blown out of the water now.
And Saracino... 5 seconds back off Zingel, so I think Zingel's got this. Unless
Saracino laps to go.
Yeah,
it's going to get harder and harder for him.
Yeah.
That was a very, very contentious moment, and potentially one or both of those drivers could get in trouble for that collision there. So Saracino dies up the inside, maybe a bit late. Flack tries to go around the outside, gets tagged at the rear, so perhaps doesn't quite have the grip, and is somebody's front wing fallen off as well. That might explain some of the goings on further down the field. What's your take on that, Nathan?
I'd say no penalty. I think it's on Flack, but because he's the one who lost out, I'd say we get no penalty. But yeah, I think it's more on Flack there because he definitely closed in to Saracino. There's nothing Saracino could do at turn 2 there. He was completely blocked off. So yeah, I think they'll go down as race incident, being as obviously, Flack got punished for it heavily. He's now
and Smith, crucially, he's got DRS on Saracino. There we go, but a little bit too far back to make a move now. So it's before they were 4, now there's 3 in the fight for victory. Scott Flack has got a 12-second gap to Dano Branfon behind, so he could probably pit and make up those positions, but he may as well just stay out on the hards and hope for the best, because those 12... I don't see Branfon closing in on the mediums in the next 9 laps. He's just not quite got the pace in that valet, but Branfon, the only valet to hold on, which is a bit of a role reversal from Bahrain, where Branfon spun it at the first corner, not used to the hybrid... harvesting system on the rear axle, which just caught him out completely, I think, as Van den Hudding pits in the Netrex and drops down to 21st position. So it's a very, very mixed-up order. I think we've had a pretty entertaining race so far, but could there be one last thing in the tech? Can Saracino make it 2 in a row, or can Istvan Single take his first win? What a meaningful win that would be for Ground Effect, who I don't think have won a race since Spa last season, actually. Which was quite a while ago, because Salajanis built a huge gap, and then the last 4 races were won by 3 by Peter Vagapov for Valet, and 1 by the Iris of Loic Moynier. All 3 drivers moving up to Pro, of course. So that's why you don't see him now, but you will see him with me and Jess to commentating in not too long a time, actually, because we are nearly up to 3:45 UK time, which I believe is 5:45 in European time. But Saracino then, the gap 4.7 seconds. Last lap was actually only 2 tenths faster than Single. So Single is doing everything he needs to do to hold on here. And it also helps that Smith is all over the back of Saracino, looking to get some payback for Super Rd.2. It's not panned out quite the way they would have hoped, has it? Really, you got to wonder. It was a brave move to split the strategies to go for the soft tyres, but I think Flack will be ruining that decision now.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, that's who's that?
Oh, it's not another ground effect, is it? I think that's actually Luxac, isn't it?
Yes.
In the Build Sim RBR Royal Blue Racing. So the black and gold racing, unfortunately, that's a blot on the copybook, as they say. I think it's still. But here we go into turn 9, and it's very similar to what we saw from Viscott, isn't it? Just dropped it mid-corner on the curb.
Yeah.
Bit of suspension arm at the rear going, so an even heavier crash there. Big heart on the top of the helmet there for Luxac, and that's a shame because I think he still could have finished in the top 20, got some good points here. You do get points all the way down to 20th here. Looks like Canzanieri is going into the pits as well, or indeed hit trouble. As now we see Smith starting to drop away from the back of Saracino. So now Saracino 3.7 behind. He was a second faster last lap around. So single, it's got into he did 16 laps on the mediums. He's now done 16 laps on the hards. This is where the hards really get into challenge territory. But Saracino, the mediums are going to be near the end of their life in about 4 or 5 laps' time. But then the race will be over. So Saracino needs to make the most of this delta while he has it and make sure he doesn't slip up here, pushing too hard and give Smith an opportunity.
Well, at the moment, I'm surprised that the commentators cursed have done a reverse. I said earlier, Saracino's probably not going to be fighting for the win at all. But at the moment, he's the one at the moment who's going to have the biggest chance of trying to fight for the win from single. But I think at this point, I think single's a bit too far ahead now for Saracino to make anything work. He's 4 seconds back. He's going to have to drop at least 7 tenths per lap and then pass and keep it ahead, considering in 3 or 4 laps, like you said, the tyres will start to die. So yeah, I think at the moment, unless single makes a heavy mistake, I think the top 3 will be pretty much similar. I think maybe Smith could get through on Saracino. That could be a possibility, but I think for now, this top 3 will definitely be the top 3.
Yeah, and despite the setbacks for Valley, we got Sophie Jones challenging Adam Buzita for 7th there. And Meganov, he pit really early of an issue, has gotten his way back up to 12th. So excellent effort from the reigning teams champions, who are only champions by a point, by the way. This is why they enter so many drivers. It's the old Le Mans strategy. Speaking of which, I think Le Mans is finished about an hour ago. So I have no idea who won. I assume Ferrari were able to hold on. But Sophie Jones all over the back now, and it looks like Buzita trying to break the toe in the SimSpark, but it's no use. Using a bit of hybrid in DRS, Sophie Jones gets herself up into the top 7 there. A beautiful move. Sophie Jones recovering from, I think, 14th or 15th on the grid, has slowly made her way up the grid using the best of those hard tyres, and a bit of a big gap to Pina Nat, 14 seconds ahead of them, but I think that's a good day's work from the valet driver.
See, I thought Sophie Jones started like 25th.
Oh, yes.
A massive improvement, 25th to 7th.
Without wishing to pour, disdain onto any of Valley's drivers, qualifying is not Sophie's strong suit. The races are more her bag, and she's proving it well and truly.
Definitely.
And sets another personal best first sector. She's flying out there at the moment. 1:16.9 last time around. The leaders, single sets a 1:16.5. Saracino sets a 1:16.1. And Smith sets a 1:15.9, actually. So he's not giving up 6 tenths behind them, back in the DRS range. So that is what is making Saracino ever so slightly second-guess himself. 5 laps to go then. And I think you're right, really. It's all about who makes a mistake here and who can hold on, with the tyres starting to wear in the Spanish sun.
I think Flack and Smith, if Smith gets through on Flack, I think they'll be equal on points. Because Flack will finish 2nd and 4th, and Smith will finish 4th and 2nd. So that could be interesting between those two. I think Saracino, I think he might keep that lead.
Well, first and second, I'm pretty sure he'll hold on to the lead. But it'll be a bit mixed up between Istvan Single and the Super Venturi drivers, yes. But it's a long way to go in this championship. Yeah, and indeed, a long way round goes Jared Batala around the outside of Daniel Miganov. So that puts the valet down to 13th position then. So good driving there from Batala to time that with the DRS. And indeed, is that Dabrowski getting involved in this as well in the Hyperion? Dabrowski started right at the very, very tail of the field in 30th, is now 14th and challenging for 13th.
Yeah, that's a great improvement as well. It seems many drivers have
And in fact, that is actually the, I believe that's Mattis Harvig. Oh, no, it might be his teammate, actually. It's not Dabrowski, it is...
okay.
It's somebody coming through the lamp them, I think, in the other Hyperion. It is Harvick, sorry, there we go. So misidentified, they're both orange and red cars, easy to get the two mixed up. The gap up front, Saracino 3.3 behind Single, just set a 1:16.6 attempt slower than Single. Single starting to fight back, the Delta going back in favor of the hard tires, and this is what we expected when we saw the mediums dying off quite early. This is what we expected to happen, isn't it? And in fact, Saracino may have pushed them too far, because Smith is still 0.2 faster now and only half a second behind.
Yeah, but obviously Smith doesn't need to push his tyres too much because he's had DRS to aid him down the straights. So I think this is now about for second, more than about for first. So we've got 4 laps remaining. It's Smith now, what, 3, 4, 5 tenths behind Saracino. This will be close, but they've got to be careful not to argue too much on track, otherwise it can end up both of them being at the race, which would not be ideal at all. And that's a big snap.
Yeah, the Super Venturi's rear starting to complain a little bit on Smith, but he will gain back a little bit of time with DRS. Now, which of these two has saved their hybrid energy for this moment then? Because that is really going to determine who triumphs in this battle. It could come down to a run down the straight on the penultimate lap, and Smith starting to really close in with the DRS. So Saracino, he is in real difficult times. He's got the gap down to 2.6. So that was a slow lap from Single, 1:17.0, 7 tenths slower. But traffic starting to play their part now. But now Saracino and Smith will have to make their way through the back markers here.
Yep, and this is what has lost Single lots of time as well, because Single's 2 seconds back, and that was a close one there.
That's Jean-Michel Garnier fighting with Boratovsky, I think, in the loser racing car. And they now have to let the second and third place men in the race through. And that was so close there. Boratovsky nearly getting collected and now has to move aside at turn 9. And that is really going to aid Thomas Smith's charge here, because he's now got within half a second before they get to the straight then. So he needs to make sure he doesn't wash out in the wake and dirty air from the back of that SimSpark car and set himself up for a run down the straight. This could be the golden opportunity Super Venturi need to get some payback here.
Yeah, and Smith nearly got took out as well at turn 9. He went up the inside of Boratovsky, and that was a very close one between the two of them. And Saracino making a mistake.
So this is it then. Who's got the hybrid power left with the DRS? Smith is going through round the outside before they even get to the start-finish line. And that is Super Venturi retaking second. But Saracino goes back into the wake and gets a little bit of slips in, tries to position himself around the outside. But it's too late. Thomas Smith has positioned himself beautifully, taken advantage of the back markers and snatched that second position back. Our pole sitter is back into top 2.
And now we've got 2 laps to go. Oh, that's one run. That's Boratovsky, I think. He's gone off the track.
Oh, dear.
Then at turn 3.
Troubles at turn 3 then for the lower end of the points then between Garnier and Boratovsky. But 3.5 seconds then. They held each other up, and that has really helped Single recover that ground that he lost a lap before.
You see the replay going
It's
through?
the loser car. Without wishing to be disdainful, that's their actual. Now he just drops on his own.
Yep, that curb.
Boratovsky.
It's a killer, that curb. He's
Lucky
especially on
kept
these
out of the
tyres. It's like we said at the start, this turn 3, when your tyres are dead, it's very difficult corner and very easy just to lose the rear there, and that's obviously what Boratovsky's done. Then at turn 3, but I don't think he was fighting for much either way, as he was then, I believe, in like 18th already, so it's not too harmful for Boratovsky, but still not an ideal thing to do. 2 laps before the end, and I believe that's Single heading up towards the line. He's 4 seconds ahead now, so I think this is pretty done, isn't it?
Well, never say never. But Buzita, by the way, started the charge. He was 4 tenths quicker than Sophie Jones the last lap, got the gap to a second. Matthew Klipp is 8 tenths behind Nando Marsa in the fight for 10th position there. So ground effect could get a double top 10 finish here. Nando has just got to keep Matthew Klipp at bay. And I'm sure Jose Ignacio will be crossing his fingers, hoping the Chilean team can get both cars home in a decent position. But Single, how much will this mean to him? Only another lap to go then, separating him from his first win in FSR period, I think. And it's been a long time coming. He's had a lot of misfortune in his previous rookie campaign last season, but this season he's come back and he's the real deal now, and he's given Saracino, Smith, Flack a lot to think about.
Yep, I think at this point, any of these top 4 are in this fight for the championship. They've all made great performances over these past 2 races, and that's, I believe, a move for 12th.
Batala trying to get back ahead of Miganov, who's found a way back through. So these two, this battle is going to run and run then, and Harvick looking to unlap himself as well.
Again.
Yeah, Matthias Harvick, always a good insight, holding on to the penultimate points position. Canzonieri currently holds it in 20th, 2.9 seconds ahead of Eliezer Nunes. You remember it got involved in all sorts of issues at the start then. It's great to see him still going. But here we go. Final lap then started for Istvan Single then. and it was a 1:16.6 last time around, so 5 tenths slower. The gap 2.9 to Thomas Smith, but Smith has left his charge a little bit too late and spent too much time battling with Saracino, and I think Single on his way to victory, as you say, Nathan.
Yeah, but it's been. I think the top four have all had a great race. I think Flack, he's sitting down in fourth spot. I think you've got to say he's done perfectly, especially with those tires he had, and obviously that incident he had with, I believe it was Saracino.
It was, yes, it was a bit unlucky for Scott, but I'm sure he'll learn from this and come back even stronger. His qualifying pace is still there, and that has really helped Super Venturi this season with another double top four finish. But here we go then, as the Hyperion of Rozak gets up to 8th ahead of Buzita there. So a little mistake there for Buzita, left the opportunity open, but Single now coming through the final sector is on his way to victory here at Barcelona. Let's see if we can see him cross the line then. 2 corners to go. It's been a wonderful drive from the Ground Effect driver. He overtook Saracino, he overtook Smith, he overtook Scott Flack, and victory for the first time goes to Istvan Single and Ground Effect. And that really is going to be a huge boost to their championship. Smith will take 2nd position for Super Venturi. Saracino will hold the championship lead in 3rd for SimSpot, but a controversial collision with Scott Flack that could be investigated post-race. I'm sure Scott Flack will be demanding it is. And Dano Brandfom a few seconds further back as we see Single celebrating with some donuts, and why not? That's a well-earned first victory. It's not every day you get to celebrate your first victory. In fact, only once. But Dano Brandfom is going to hold off Peter Knapp, Sophie Jones, and then Rozak. Adam Buzita is going to just miss out then on that 8th place. Marsa will hold on to 10th, Matthew, so it will be a double 10 finish for Ground Effect, which I believe is going to put them very close into the top 3, I think, in the Teams Championship. As there we go, Matthew Clip just being picked by Marsa, and I think one of Marsa's best drives as well, his best finish in the championship in the top 10. Miganov is going to complete his recovery. He would have hoped for better, but considering the issues, 12th, I think, is a great drive. Batala will come 13th, then it will be Dabrowski, Andrew Hariza, Buzita, Garnier, Bortovsky, I think, a lap down then, along with Harvick, Canzanieri, and that is rounding out the points finishes.
Yeah, I think a greatest one. I think for me personally, Zingle is my driver of the day. I think he's done perfect.
I have
yes,
to
who do
agree
you
with
think?
I have to agree with you. I saw Single so many races like Brazil last year, the end of last season, where he qualified really well and then got involved in an accident. Arguably wasn't his fault. I think someone lagged in front of him and Single had the front wheel ripped off him. But that was a long time coming. He's been so many strong performances, never quite got the result he deserved. And now it's finally come his way. And there we go, confirmation of the final result. Ground Effect's first victory since Spa last year, so that's in at least 5 or 6 races. It's been a bit of a drought for Ground Effect, but the wins are coming back, and Single is now their main man. Thomas Smith gets his best result yet in 2nd position, his first podium, I think, in Academy, ahead of Saracino, who will hold on to the championship lead. Then it is Flack, denied a podium despite that brilliant start on the soft tyre. He will have to settle for 4th position ahead of Dano Brandfom, who holds on to 5th from Peter Knapp in the Royal Blue. Sophie Jones recovers up to 7th despite a lowly qualifying, ahead of Patrick Rozak despite his spin that we saw the Hyperion do. So Hyperion always there in the lower points, it would seem. Then it is Buzita in 9th, and Nandor Marsa getting his best finish in the top 10. Matthew Clip finishes 11th ahead of Miganov. Jared Batala in another Royal Blue finishes 13th ahead of Dabrowski in the 2nd Hyperion, who started dead last and will finish 14th. So a great recovery there. Andrew Harizoa is able to finish 15th ahead of Buzita. Elise Buzita in the lead, loser racing car from Jean-Michel Garnier. Borotowski, after his late spin, will finish 18th ahead of Harvig. And Canzanieri, who takes the final point in 20th. Then it is Nunes who just misses out, and Perseus Miram bringing up the rear, sadly for him, but getting better and better every race, it must be said, in the Royal Blue Build Sim. Luke Sack, sadly, his teammate crashed out, as indeed Ruben van den Hudding, Lucas Viscott, Samuel Ivanov, Alessandro Maggio, Stan Vlietstra, Dmitry Zaharov, and Romeo Silviera being disqualified for reasons that I don't think have quite been disclosed to us, but I'm sure Silviera will be very eager to put that one behind him.
Yeah, I think it was a decent race.
Oh, definitely. By Barcelona standards, absolutely. So, as for Academy, we will be back 25th of June at the end of the month. So you get a double month of FSR Academy and Pro Action. But speaking of Pro Action, be proactive and watch the Pro Race, which is coming up in about 45 minutes' time, I believe. Our broadcast will start, and that is going to be me and, of course, the Wonderful wonderful Jessica Ball keeping me company. But thanks you very much for joining me, Nathan.
No
So
worries.
Richie, what was your did you for a first ever race? That was a pretty strategic,
It was.
pretty enthralling, and plenty of controversy and action, which I'm sure is going to run long into the night for this Academy field.
Well, for someone like me who loves races based on strategy, that was absolutely amazing, and it's definitely given me some great first impressions here at the Academies here of FSR.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. Hopefully we can you can join me again for a few future races when Josh isn't available. But I think that's all for Academy then. So congratulations once again to Istvan Single. He reigns in Spain. We'll be back on the 25th of June for our next round in Academy. But tune in for Pro for more action for Barcelona in about half an hour's time. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to Highlights Eurosport.
Who's going to break his 6th world title?
For Mike Gosby. Oh, he's done it. And
Look at these two go.
Richie Hoy is going to do it. His first victory.
The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.